Cheep, cheep, cheep. Talk a lot, pick a little more. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Talk a lot, pick a little more. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Talk a lot, pick a little more. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk. Cheep, cheep, cheep. Talk a lot, pick a little more. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little. Cheep, 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 cheep. Pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk.
You're despicable.
Go, I say, go away, boy, you bother me.
Farewell, lady. Farewell, lady. Farewell, lady. We're going to leave you now.
Welcome back to Mountaineer Rants. I'm Terry. This is Paul. We are here to tell you about this game that just happened last Saturday.
It's a good day to be a Mountaineer.
Yeah, it was
going into the fourth quarter. It was what?
42-7 going into the fourth quarter. You know, I think somebody right here predicted that game was going to be 38-24. It ended up 42-21.
He's talking about West Virginia and Cincinnati,
yes.
And this is a Cincinnati team that had been doing fairly well in a couple of different categories. They were smothered by the Mountaineers.
They had some good stats. They hadn't won a lot of games, let's say that, but they had won their first one. They had lost 7, they won 1, and they came into Morgantown pretty high. And I give their coach a lot of credit. I think he's going to be a good one. And he said after the game, he said, well, they just kicked our butts.
They kicked our butts.
So
the theme today is we've exceeded expectations.
Oh my goodness, yes.
and there's some negative people out there that need to be reminded that we beat Cincinnati 42-21. We could have named our own score.
Yeah.
We did it without our running back, C.J. Donaldson. He only played a token player too.
Mm-hmm.
We essentially did it without Carter, our go-to receiver.
I think they pretty much kind of took him away. He didn't do much in the game.
He caught one pass out of the 5 thrown to him. We did it with at least 2 or 3 freshmen. Cole Taylor caught 3 passes out of 3. Gallagher caught 3 passes out of 4. Fox caught 3 out of 5.
And don't forget, Doug Nestor, our starting right tackle, didn't play. Our starting right guard, Brandon Yates, went down early. So we had 2 backups on the right side of the line. What did they respond with running the ball with?
Well, they have a pretty good running back, but in fact, Cincinnati had finished 4 games in which they rushed for at least 200 yards in each of those 4 games. They were 151 yards against West Virginia, and a lot of that came in the fourth quarter after we were swapping people a little bit.
My point was that our right side of our line was out, and we ran for 424 yards. Green and White, and even CJ went in, and even Justin got in and ran. Why that team was not put on that list of the best offensive lines in the country, I have no idea. And Neil used that to a motivating tactic. And by the way, before we get into what he's going to get into, let me just say this. There were people a few years ago who said they wanted to fire Matt Moore because he didn't know what he was doing with an offensive line. Where are you now, and what do you got to say now?
Those knuckleheads are not that bad. But we're going to throw you guys, whoever you guys were, right in the pile of the other experts.
Exactly.
And we're going to take a little history lesson now.
Let's do
the
this.
preseason Big 12 poll said Texas, Kansas State, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Central Florida, Kansas, Iowa State, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and West Virginia.
Wait, whoa. We were picked last in the conference?
This
was the Big 12 preseason poll?
The ESPN Power Index said we were going 1-11 this season with only a 27% chance of a 6-6.
Oh well, we must not have played anybody any good. That's the only.
We were ranked 61 down. Well, the experts said that we had the toughest schedule in the Big 12.
I do remember something about that.
Our strength of schedule was 13th in the nation, the toughest in the Big 12, because the experts thought Pitt and TCU and Texas Tech and a number of those newcomers coming in, they were all bad, and the experts were wrong. If you remember,
they said TCU was coming off a national championship appearance, and Texas Tech was the preseason darling to be up there in the top 4 or 5 of the conference.
Yep.
But forgive me for
they gave us a 35% chance of beating Pitt, a 40% chance of beating Texas Tech, a 27% chance of beating TCU, a 44% chance of beating Houston, 46 for beating Oklahoma State. Central Florida, we had a 19% chance, according to the experts, of
We
beating
were
Central
underdogs
Florida.
when we went down there, and we handled that pretty good too. I'd have to
We
say.
had a 67% chance of beating BYU. It's the only, other than Duquesne, the only game we were scheduled, we were favored. At Oklahoma, they gave us 6.8% chance of winning,
We
and
laid
that
an
was
egg
right.
out there.
And against Cincinnati, we only had a 29% chance. 70% chance Cincinnati was going to beat us. Did I mention 42-21?
Yeah, 42 to
These
21.
are the experts.
Did I say 42-7 going into the fourth quarter? I think is what I said. Okay, yeah, I think that's what it was. You can go back and look it up.
But let's talk about what the experts were basing a lot of that on. They were basing a lot of that on last year's stats, because that's all they had,
Right.
and we ranked 107, 110, 111 out of 132 teams in all kinds of passing and defensive categories.
The defense was not good last year. Absolutely correct.
Yep. And we ranked that way. And they whipped out the number of people that came and went. For example, we lost the players we lost into the portal. Mumu Bin Wad, Charles Woods, Mike Laughlin, Naeem Mohammed, Reese Smith, Will Crowder, St. McLeod, Corbin Page, Tyron Woodby, J.T. Daniels, Jordan White, Caden Prather, Jordan Jefferson, Chris Mayo, Taj Alston, Lanell Carr, Jalen Shelton, Dylan Ray, Auric Burton, Caleb Coleman, and Tony Mathis. Now, those guys went to places like SMU, UConn, Liberty, Rice, Maryland, LSU, and the like, and they left. And they left partly because Coach is on the hot seat, and our team's not good.
They weren't going to be any good.
And we need to fire everybody, and they said, we're going to bail. Now, what happened? Coach Brown and that crowd went out and brought in some other players. They brought in Noah Massey, who hasn't done much
Hasn't
yet.
played
He's
much.
just working. Tyron Bradley.
Who has played and has been a contributor. Yes.
E.J. Horton, he came in from Marshall.
Who's learning the offense. He'll get
Tony
better.
Durage.
Really like this kid. That's
This
gonna be
is
a
from
good one.
Kentucky player. Anthony Wilson, number 12 on the defense. He
Second
will
leading
hit you.
tackler on the team behind Lee Koba.
Beanie Bishop, who's now developed into somebody that's winning national acclaim
Third
for the
leading
pass
tackler on the
breakup.
team, 4 interceptions, and leading the country in passes defense.
Dovon Hawkins, who
DD, and that's
DD.
Jordan Leslie loves him. His personality, a big personality. Gotta love this guy.
Fatoma Mulba, a Penn State defensive lineman. I think he's excellent. I think the guy's one of our. We got some of these guys another year.
And
too.
they're getting in and playing now. Yeah, they're coming back. It's,
Michael Hayes, the kicker from Georgia State. Keyshawn Cobb, I think, was a good addition, but the boy was injured
He got
right
hurt
away.
away.
We
Missed
haven't
the
had
whole
much
season.
fun. Jayshawn Polk is a wide
Hasn't
receiver
played.
from Kent State, hasn't worked. Devin Carter has been our go-to receiver in a lot of these games. Cole Taylor, the tight end from LSU.
Boy, we hit the jackpot on that one, didn't we?
Pivotal
Yeah.
part of our offense. Montre Miller was another cornerback that we thought would help us out. He got injured very early.
We thought he was going to be a starter. Yeah.
That's what Mr. Brown did from the transfer portal. Now, the experts, of course, the experts all know this stuff.
They know it better than
They
we do.
knew
yeah.
we were starting the year with a new quarterback. That he'd only started a couple of games in the
games,
press. He's essentially a freshman. He was going to start in Happy Valley against the top-ranked team. They knew we were going to start with a sophomore running back and freshman in our backfield. They knew we had freshman receivers. They knew we had transfer players. They knew we lost a lot of players. So what did they say was
They
going to
also
happen?
didn't realize the importance of a good offensive line. I think that's where they missed it, because
Wow.
we do have a good offensive line, and we knew we had a good offensive line coming back.
Oh,
but
you mean that line that was built around West Virginia players?
Mr. Matt Moore,
But
in
West
offensive
Virginia
line.
players, you
Doug
can't,
Nestor,
you
Zach
can't
Frazier,
win games with
Wyatt
West Virginia
Milam.
recruits.
Well,
There's not
I've
enough
heard that
players
somewhere.
in
That
West
guy
Virginia.
coaches somewhere now.
I don't know why.
I think he's going to get out. He's going to be thrown out.
Why didn't our coaches just listen to the experts and roll up and die on
They
the
should have just
drill?
cool guy, yeah.
Yeah, just-
well, the last one did. He just got out.
He
just
got
said,
the
"I'm
hell
out.
out.
I'm
Well,
getting
he's
out."
doing so well.
He's doing really well down there. Yeah.
But let's do another rundown. Let's talk about what some of these experts said, just so you know some of the names in the future.
Yeah.
Shahan Jayariah from CBS Sports said the Mountaineers would be 3-9. He said they'd start 1-4 heading into the Houston game. We ended up starting 4-1.
I think.
So remember
maybe it was a misprint.
Remember that CBS Sports.
Yeah.
Then we had two of them that said 4-8. Will Graves of the Associated Press, he said, Brown loses to Penn State and pissed decisively, and he's gone before Halloween.
Yeah.
And he was just, he's a WVU alum. Will Graves, the Associated Press.
Yeah.
That's the kind of, those are the kind of friends we need more of, don't we?
Yeah.
4-8.
Yeah.
Andrew Stockey from WTAE TV, of course, that's from the hated Boyd's North. He said we were 4-8.
They used to have a little jingle back in the day, WTAE. Did I ever tell you? Makes no difference where I go. You're the best hometown I know. Well, we changed that when we were at school there. I said, makes no difference where I go. WTAE, you blow.
Oh,
I just sorry, I popped out. I had.
This musical interlude brought to you by Derek.
Makes no difference where. Anyway,
Please.
we sang that to them, but they came down to cover a basketball game, and a bunch of us got up and sang that to them, and they even laughed at it. That was good. But moving on. Sorry, I digress.
We had a bunch of other experts predicting before the season we'd be 5-7. Bill Bender of the Sporting News, he said we have the toughest non-conference schedule. Rob Rossi of the Athletic, 5-7.
This is good. I love this one. Listen here, close.
He says it feels hopeless. He says the football team and the university are irreparably damaged. He said combine that with the recent embarrassments of Bob Huggins, Gordon G. Mess, cutting programs. He says it's become a blur of inconceivable and entirely avoidable demise.
Where are you at today, Mr. Rossi? Why don't you? Are
He's
you
with
watching
the
Mountaineer Rants?
He's at the Cassidy Wood from WOWK TV said 5-7. He said Texas Tech and TCU both win.
Wrong.
He said, so right there you're already sitting at 2-4. He said maybe you get 3 more wins, possibly beating Cincinnati and maybe BYU, but
Well-
nobody else.
Well, he got those two.
Yeah, he got those.
Give him credit. He
did
look
pick
for
up-
the positive. He
got
got
the
those
maybe
two
on that.
right. Yeah.
Ethan Brock of WV Sports Now said 5-7. Logan Carney of WV Sports Now said 5-7. Said specifically, I have very little faith in this year's Mountaineers making a bowl berth. Thank you, Logan.
Yeah, Logan, you were
Remind me
couple
to
weeks
tune
ago.
in and listen to your predictions this year too.
You're the soothsayer of soothsayer.
Right, and that's
you ain't.
WV Sports.
Yeah.
Wes Uller of 970 ESPN Pittsburgh said 5-7. He said this team could easily be 1-4 by the end of the month.
Wrong. 4-1.
Schuler Callahan
Skyler.
of Sports. That's his Schuler.
Well, I
learned that in school.
Yeah.
He's 5-7
Grammar
from
school.
Sports Illustrated. Now again, you guys are supposed to have something on the ball over there. He says 5-7, and get this one. He says I see Baylor being back in the mix for the Big 12 title match this fall. He says I'm going with the Bears dropping the Mountaineers to 5-7. And once again, the Mountaineers missing a bowl game. Well, they're not going to drop us to 5-7. Schuler.
Well, he
because-
must have been looking early at that schedule.
Yeah, that schedule. That's right. He did. He needs to get his. But they're not going to drop us to 5-7. I dare say.
I don't think
Sports
that's gonna
Illustrated
happen.
should renegotiate your contract. You know what?
No.
If I was
No
Sports
extension.
Illustrated, I would fire you.
Yeah, he would
because
be fired.
if you're not going to get it right, you ought to be fired. We ought
That's
to get
what we
somebody
do with the
enough
coach.
is
We
enough,
we
man.
say the coach can't win, get him out. Well,
Yeah.
all you guys have predicted all that.
You're
We ought to
out
be
of
fired.
here.
Yeah, well, let's get somebody who can really predict.
There's a bunch of 6-6s. Alex Whiterspell from WKMZ. George Gerbo from the Washington Times. Brett McMurphy from Action Network. Another Keenan Cummings from another WV Sports.
Yeah,
He
Keenan.
said 6-6 with a chance of 7-5. Dave Weekly from WV Metro News said, oh, well, we'll win Duquesne and all 4 of the Big 12 newcomers, but he didn't see much else
So
after
they really
that.
didn't think this team was going to be any good at all.
Nope. Cody Nespor from the Dominion Post. You want to renew your Dominion Post articles here, Dan?
Yeah, Dave
Mike
Winkle.
Asti, he's an FWK all the way.
Well, he's in WV Sports now, but he's out of Pittsburgh, and so I immediately have lost any credibility with me. So, Mike Asti, get out of here.
Paul Cease from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the 93.7 The Fan. I shouldn't be giving these guys all this advertising,
No,
but they're all wrong.
Maybe they'll watch now.
Their predictions were wrong. They weren't too far wrong, so they said 6 and 6.
If you're watching us, put him a comment on their stuff and tell him, come over here and look, and we'll talk to him.
We got more right than he did.
We knew more than they did.
We got more right.
And we're not experts. We got like real jobs
we're
and
not
stuff.
getting a paycheck.
Well, we get jobs and we don't get, but this is free.
Now
stuff
let's
here.
talk about the ones that got a little bit right.
Oh, God.
And one of the first is a familiar name, Justin Coos Walker.
Coos'
If
Corner.
you've seen Coos' Corner, he's a WVU fan and he hosts a YouTube channel. He said we'd be 7 and 5. Looks like he can't be too wrong at this point. He's still wrong if we win the
I
next
think we
game.
win. I think he's 8 and 4, but at least he's a little more positive than some of these other guys.
Ray Anthony Valorani of Mountaineer Sports said we would be 8 and 4.
Hey, Ray.
And
you
he
might have-
says Neil Brown will get another year as head coach.
Yeah,
Now,
he
I
better.
looked at a lot of these people. This guy is going to be right.
Yeah.
The others are wrong. Why is he wrong? Is he a homie? How did he
He
get
is
it
a
right?
Mountaineer sports guy, and maybe coming into the year he didn't. He was. Maybe he likes Neil Brown like we do. Maybe he said, well, "I got to predict something good because everybody else is crapping all over us."
He knows you have to play the game.
Well, there is
He
that.
knows that quantifying players based on history or ratings and all of that's nonsense. He knows you have to see how they perform on the field. We went up and watched spring games, spring practices. We've seen Brown split practices into 4 or 5 of them. That's the hardest working coach on the
yeah.
planet.
Absolutely.
And we saw it and we sensed it, and the only question was, did we have the talent and the schedule to do something?
Well,
Matt,
maybe he saw that offensive line. And forgive me, I'm an old lineman, but maybe he saw that and said, that team can win some games just on the strength of their offensive line.
Big 12 just passes the
That's important. Unless you're Oklahoma and you just hold. You can have anybody play there. They just
Matty Stout, Staudt of Jam Street Media, predicted before the season started that we would be 9 and 3. He said the coach has nothing to lose. The team wants to help the coach protect his job. He says a hungry team equals a winning team, and he said the offense has the potential to shock. Now, we're not going to be
Pretty
9
good.
and 3 because we've lost the 4th game.
Other than
But
Hail
that Hail
Mary,
Mary
it's
with
very
3
possible
seconds
we
to
could
go makes his closer to being 100% right than the rest of them. And then the last one on here, and one of the highest rated ones, at 9 and 3, this fella saying the defense will step up and eliminate secondary mistakes, and the special teams will give us good field position. And his name was Steve Slayton.
You remember that guy? He was a pretty good football player in his day too. He played in the NFL and stuff. So what is the point of all these stuff we've read to you? Is to tell you we've exceeded expectations. If I'm a manager, I manage people at my work, and I have a set of expectations for them to hit. And when they exceed them, I normally reward them. I don't say, well, you had a whole bunch of easy jobs in a row. That's the only reason you're exceeding expectations this time. But you have to be rewarded for exceeding the expectations.
And if you want to look at a stock that's moving along the chart like this, you can take an average of that stock and say it's right here. But this is where the stock is today.
Right.
And the Neil Brown teams, if you look for trends, they tend to get better at the end of the year.
That's
I don't
the
know if you
year goes on.
recall, we won 2 of the last 3 games last year against Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And that was the end of the year. That was with a freshman quarterback and a backup quarterback.
Yep.
And towards the end of the year this time, we were putting together some things.
Through the
We
clinker
keep-
in Oklahoma.
Our scores have been going up steadily. Our quarterback has been getting his game legs. He is just essentially a freshman.
I think he's only got 1 more year of eligibility though, but I'm all right.
We've gotten
We've got him waiting in the wings with Nico.
whether it's offense, the defensive secondary may be the only area where we haven't exceeded expectations,
Yeah.
and even that is with improvement. This is a team that's exceeded expectations. 42-21, we handled Cincinnati. I don't have anything against Cincinnati. I know it's supposed to be a rivalry and maybe in the future because they're nearby, but I think there'll be a rivalry like Penn State, West Virginia was a rivalry. I think we'll beat them every year.
424 yards rushing. Do you realize what that is? I mean, we just sometimes would go 3 games, 4 games, and not get that many. That's an incredible total.
And
They
our
could
backup
not stop
running
us.
back, White, had over 200 yards
That kid's
rushing,
electric too.
which is more than most teams get. It's more than their team got.
And by the way, just so you say, I made a comment. Someone made a comment. I said about the program pointing the right direction, and someone said that I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know much about football. Well, look at the team exceeding expectations. Look at Rodney Gallagher. Look at Traylon Ray. Look at Jaheim White. Look at Ben Cutter. Those are all freshmen.
If you want to give you one,
I mean, my goodness, are we not looking up? I mean, is the arrow pointing up? I think so.
I don't think there's any question that it's going up. And if you want to remind yourself what happens in other circumstances, take a look at Pitt, take a look at TCU, take a look at
Clemson.
Baylor.
Clemson.
These are teams that were playing for championships and titles a year ago, and they're all on the bottom looking up. You're only as good as your last team.
It's true.
We've exceeded expectations. We'll be here to tell you about Baylor next week.
Don Nehlen always exceeded expectations, and praise that was awesome what we did to honor him. We will give you a preview next time. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And thank you, Don Nehlen, for being one of the best coaches we've had.
Absolutely.